गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवद्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः। नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सहनौ भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया शृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि रविनं स्ववर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम्। शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत्। अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु। तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मा ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य मानि ईस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् avatu vaktaram, avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bhadranno api vataya manaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bhadran karnebhih shrunuyama devaah. Bhadram pashyema akshabhiryajatraah. Sthirairangaistुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yo Brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedamscha prahinoti tasmai tam hadevam atma buddhi prakasham mumukshur vai sharanamaham prapadye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let's chant the first verse. Then we'll move on. Om ityetadakshara idagum sarvam. Om ityetadakshara idagum sarvam. Tasyopavyakhyanam. Bhutam bhavat bhavishyaditi. Sarvam omkara eva. Yacchanyat-trikalatītam tadapyonkara eva. Then number 6. Esha sarveshwaraha. Esha sarvagyaha. Esho antaryami. Esha yonihi. Sarvasya prabhavapyayo hi bhutanam. Prabhavaya. Okay.
Excuse me, can we have the heater off now, please?
I'm sorry?
Heater off now.
Oh, it's too warm?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
It's locked, right?
I didn't know that we turned it on. I thought it was automatic.
It's not locked. It's locked though.
I think it's certainly the
Did you have this in this bag?
I don't have it.
Ah, yes, thank you, thank
So
you.
it's 68 now.
Fine. Yeah, I know, but.
It will shut off in a minute. You can take off your jackets and mufflers and stuff on. So in the last class, we were reviewing the Karika number 6, which on this English book is on page 3. Prabhavaha sarva bhavanam satam iti vinishchayaha sarva janayati pranas cheto amshashun purushah prithak. So there is a topic here which been very well explained by Swami Maheshanandji in terms of the interconnection of that particular karika and the next 4 or 5 that are coming up. But just stepping back from it and reviewing what we had already started the topic on. This is an important topic. I mean, it's an independent topic which should govern the way we look at our lives. So these karikas simply bring those thoughts out, but it's important to see the overall sense of what is being said. So to remind you of that, we had defined a Sanskrit term called vyavastha. Vyavastha. So this is interesting. This is the topic. This is the topic we have to see. So vyavastha means a fully explainable order. In other words, a complete explanation of something that you're trying to do, which leaves nothing out of the, nothing leaves nothing out. And as an example of that would be all of our karmas are based on a vyavastha. Like for example, supposing you have to go to San Francisco and you have to be there at 7 o'clock. And then you have to know the traffic and how long it gets there. You have to find some kind of a vehicle, whether your own car or Uber or something. So a reaching of San Francisco at a given time and then completing that journey would be called a vyavastha. That means that you know everything that needs to be done. And there is some unpredictability to it, and you can, which is an important thing because you have no idea what might happen. There might be an accident, you might be held up behind or something, you may not be able to get there by 7 o'clock. Anyway, so this is a vyavastha. So now we view our life before we understand the truth about the Shastra's teaching of the Atma and so on. Before we do that, as an Ajnani, we look for a vyavastha for our life. How do I do this so that I am happy? And everybody uses a different vyavastha for it. Not only that, not only do the people themselves look at their lives as a vyavastha, but then you have schools of thought that give you some guidance based on their understanding of the vyavastha. And so you have religions. This is what the contribution of the religions is, that they give you a structure of the vyavastha. This is the way it should be. And they, of course, always, look at, not always, but in most cases, they look for next life as well. So you should not just look at this life, but also start to look at the vyavastha for what's going to happen to you next life. And so you're supposed to follow it. And so here are two things. One is your own understanding of the vyavastha of life. And the second one is that you get some guidance from these schools of thought. So this is the background. Okay? Now comes Vedanta. And Vedanta says, our Shastras, Vedas say that please understand that this is a relative, at a relative level, perhaps a vyavastha. Like going to San Francisco, it's a relative vyavastha. So you cannot say, there's no order to it, there's no structure to it, I don't know where to go. That's not the case. If you want to go to some place, you find out how far it is and how long does it take you to get there. You make mistakes, that's a different thing, but it's a vyavastha. So Vedanta says that Vyavastha at a relative level is okay. But please understand that at the absolute level, Paramarthika Satyam, there is no Vyavastha. There is no Vyavastha. So what do you mean by saying there is no Vyavastha? By that we mean, and I remember different acharyas use different words for it. Swami Dayanandji used to say that. I didn't quite understand it, quite frankly. We just took notes. And then I still remember I used to have some doubts about it. Why is Swamiji saying that? Swami Dayanandji used to say that, please understand that Vedanta is not a system like some of the other schools of thoughts are. He used to say that. And I used to say, how can you say that? Because, you know, we're teaching, you're learning something in a particular way, that's a system. But for whatever, even, you know, you don't, somehow that didn't get resolved in my mind until much more recently when I started to read Swami Maheshananji's book. Then I got an understanding of what Swamiji meant by that. So Vedanta says that at the absolute level, please understand that there is no Vyavastha. So we need to understand, what do you mean by that, there is no Vyavastha? So we'll explore that just in general, and then we will see how much the Karika fits into it and so on. Another aspect of this is why I was reading several different references to this. In fact, there's a section in the Panchadashi, the Dviya Bhaga, on the 6th chapter. Swami Vidyaranya takes it up. It's just absolutely, I am really, together with the explanation of Swami Maheshananji, I am really becoming in love with the Panchadashi. And this chapter, which is in the 6th chapter, is one of the longest, 290 verses. And so this is, I'm at the, on this particular one is at 253, verse number 252, 53, and so on. So here another word is used to describe that at the absolute level there is no Vyavastha. So different words are used, but we should see the sense of it, and I'll conclude it with saying what the sense is towards the end, but I'm giving you the Shastric definitional aspect of it. So another word is used, it's called Achintya Rupam. Achintya Rupam means that the whole Rachana, the entire creation of Ishvara, is the nature of something that cannot be precisely defined. Achintya Rupam. And you have to believe me when I'm connecting all of this together, because now I've been studying this, and so it has really given me some ideas on exactly what is Shastra saying. It's becoming clear in my mind. So this Achintya Rupam and the lack of Vyavastha is the same thing. So the question is how? Because in fact it leaves you with an uncomfortable feeling. An uncomfortable feeling that it is not Chintya Rupam. Chintya means something that can be thought through very well. It's called Chintya. Achintya means it cannot be thought through. You cannot really precisely define it. It's called Achintya Rupam. There's no Vyavastha. So this leaves us with an uncomfortable feeling that what? I'm studying all of this and I'm following something, and at the end of that you tell me this is really not, there's no order to this. It cannot be thought through. So that's not the case. It is, in fact, at the end of that, one should feel very comfortable. But the way we go about our life, and I think another way to look at it is that we have a feeling that I'm going to figure out this life. So this figuring out is also a vyavastha. See, that's another way of looking at it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. And we are all struggling to figure it out. There's, there's advice given by people. If you do this, if you become selfless, if you love everybody, then that's what life is all about, and so on. And to a certain extent, those have some relevance. But Vedanta says that all that relevance is at a relative level. It's not going to give you moksha. Moksha means that I need to be done with this, because I should understand that this life is just one of many, many lives. In every life we probably do the same thing. How should we do? How should we be happy? What should we do? This is what Swami Maheshanand has been saying. You have no idea. You've been doing this for millions of times, not even thousands of times. Keep on going, and then how should we figure? We want to figure out our lives in somehow. And so the message of Shastra, if we really understand, is you cannot figure it out. You cannot figure it out. Why is that? Why is that? Because for a long time, it appears you can figure it out. And so another way of looking at this is the scientific analysis of life. How did the creation take place? Big Bang. What are things made out of? Smaller particles, bigger particles. We are spending billions of dollars in trying to split particles so that we can get to the very fundamental aspect of what constitutes life. So the whole scientific inquiry also is based on figuring it out, trying to see what the vyavastha is. And even things, some simple things, Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, if you just take a rose and you say, you know what, I want to completely analyze this one object called a rose. That's it. Really speaking, you can get probably 50 PhDs by just completely understanding what a rose is. And so that means, how does it grow? The aroma, the smell of it, and the color, and the particular life, how long will it last? And so on and so forth. All the flowers have a different. There's a flower called Alstroemeria. I don't know if any one of you know this or not. Alstroemeria. The Alstroemeria is a very interesting flower because it lasts for a long time, and in fact, all the restaurants are very fond of it. I discovered it in a very unpleasant way. I used to have an allergy. I used to do puja in the morning, and I had a lot of Alstroemeria. I don't do archana and puja every morning. I just do light up a lamp and so on, but except on Saturday morning. I always do that on Saturday morning. But there was a time when I used to do archana and puja every morning for about a half hour, an hour. And I used to get Alstroemeria, and my whole fingers were completely swollen. And I didn't understand what was happening. Then one day, Ishvara helped me. I started to do archana with my left hand. And now my left hand started swelling. So I went to the doctor and I said, I think there is allergy to Alstroemeria. He says, I've never heard that. You're just imagining things. This is like about 15 years ago. So I started, and in fact, Google at that time was not that, people didn't do searches. But I Googled it, and there was one doctor and a patient in Australia that had the same problem. Anyway, I was telling my dermatologist that I'm willing to write you a paper, and he didn't take me up on it. Anyway, so the flowers are all different. Some are long lasting and some are very short lasting. So there is in fact a vyavastha for analyzing the flower. But at the end of that, you will end up, this is an important thing, at the end of the vyavastha of analyzing the rose, there is always, I don't know how this happens. For about 80-90% of that, the feeling is, I know exactly how it happens. At the end of that, you say, this much we do not understand. And so the same thing with the scientists. They'll say, splitting particles and so on. But the awareness, we don't understand. We don't understand. And so Vedanta says, if after spending a whole life, you discover that you do, at the end of that, there are portions that you do not understand, why don't you admit it in the very beginning? And please listen to what I have to tell you, that the whole world cannot be precisely defined. Achintya Rupam. Achintya Rupam. It cannot be precisely defined. You cannot have vyavastha in analyzing this life. And number one, so then because the human nature is that we don't want to be uncomfortable. We want to really analyze everything. We want to precisely see how things are working. And if anybody says you cannot be done, then you say no. That means you haven't inquired enough. I'm going to do it. And this is exactly what happens. This is exactly what new religions are started. New thoughts are suggested. It is because they did not complete the study. They stopped at the point, as soon as he says, this drishya vastu ki rachna achintya hai. This is the statement. That means that whatever is seen in this whole creation cannot be fully analyzed. So they'll close the book and he says, this Vedanta doesn't make any sense. They don't know. It can be defined. So they go on defining it and so on. And as Swami Maheshanji pointed out, he's very fond of saying that. He says, if you really analyze it, the modern science is simply another way of analysis. He says, we've been doing it for millions of years. We've had so many theories that this is, and so we've done a very good job of Sankhya system, for example, has done a very good job of analyzing what are the basic ingredients of life, how should it be done, how do they combine together. This is science that's been going on. Up to this day, we are still searching. Still searching. No, that was the old time. Now we have new methods. Not going to happen. So the question is that, is this a state where you're leaving into a uncomfortable feeling that cannot be figured out? No. Vedanta finishes the whole thing by saying the important thing is you don't need to figure out the Srishti. You don't need to figure it out. You cannot figure it out. But the important thing is you don't need to figure it out. You see, our attempts to figure it out is based on the fact that we need to figure it out. We're not completely done yet. We don't have a complete fulfillment in life. And we think that it is because I'm living in a world which I haven't really come to grips with. And as soon as I have to, when I find the grips with it, and then if I don't find it, then I look for some guidance from schools of thought. This is why we join different schools of thought. And those are they will be not exhaustively, but they will be given examples in numbers 7, 8, and 9, which we will come to. Okay, so we will look at some examples of schools of thought that they figure out exactly what it is. But this is the thought that is prevailing here with number 6 and 6 through 9, which is, of course, the ending of the first 6 verses of the Mandukya, which is devoted to saying the experiences that you have in your life. And it ends by saying it cannot be figured out. So we started with Jagrat Avastha, Sushupti Avastha, Swapna Avastha, Jagrat Avastha, and the macrocosmic aspect of that, and ended up with number 6, Ishvaraha, and so on and so forth. All of this was really the Drishyavastu, all that is seen. And so it is naiti, naiti, naiti. It is the negation of the Drishyavastu. So the end of that is an analysis from verse number 6 to 9, which summarizes and says that this is not a vyavastha because it is achintya rupam. At the end of that, there is ignorance. And so the best way we can define is that it is something just happens through the Maya Shakti of Ishvara. And the beauty of the Maya Shakti is that it is not real. The fact that you see a snake instead of a rope, there is no vyavastha, as we were discussing in the last class. If there is a real snake, there is a vyavastha. How did it come there? How long is it going to be? Where is he? But if it is an imagined thing, imagine not an imagined out of nowhere, but if there is a mistake, yeah, that's a better word, due to the certain conditions, because the light not being there, and then also some similarity. You see, there has to be similarity between what is projected and what is real, because you cannot imagine a snake on an elephant. You have to imagine a snake on top of a rope. So there has to be some similarity and some conditions, because there was, and also another thing, very interestingly enough, if there is complete darkness, you won't make a mistake. So, and if it is complete light, you won't make a mistake. But there is partial light, some light, not enough to show very clearly, you can make a mistake. This is what Srishti is all about. So when you see a snake on a rope, it is not a vyavastha. You cannot say precisely. You can say, how did it happen? My goodness. Yeah, you can just do that. It's because you have prior knowledge of ropes, and you have some fears, and all combined together, it just happens. No, but I want to analyze it completely. You cannot analyze it completely. And so really the whole, this is the bottom line, that I think we need to look at our life where we can say, let me just deal with it at a relative basis. Because yeah, that can be done. But if my objective is to fully understand, it cannot be done. Cannot be done. Because it is exactly like a snake on a rope. There is no vyavastha. What are you talking about? But everyone else is looking for a vyavastha. that we need to exactly do how we were born, what was happening, and so on and so forth. And yes, we can analyze it to a large degree. We can talk about karma, we can talk about prarabdha karma, agami karma, this, that, or the other, all that we can do. But please understand, at the end of it, there will be, we don't know. Okay? And then to address the uncomfortable feeling that how can you leave us with saying we don't know? You don't need to know. What do you mean by you don't need to know? Because your looking for vyavastha is with the assumption that you are incomplete and you need to know to gain completion. That is not necessary. That itself is a mistake. The other thing is that, in fact, this is all, you know, when we go to the later, I'm just giving you a summary of this. The rest of the karika, where we have lots of karikas coming up, will analyze this to a great degree. Great degree. So, for example, people will say there are competing schools of thought who criticize Vedanta and say you cannot do that because that means that you cannot even precisely define who you are, because you are also part of this whole creation. And if you're telling me that I cannot fully define creation, that means you include yourself. And so we said no. Because the self is not a creation. It is not part of the rachana. Rachana means a creation. Therefore, it is not achintya rupam. It is swatasiddham. It is already established, already understood. Nowhere is it absent. It is satya rupam. It is not part of the rachana. You are making it part of the rachana. You're not you, but all of us begin to make it with a part of the rachana through the ahankara. But really speaking, the sakshi, the Paramatma, the Atma, the Brahman, is not part of the creation. Achintya Rupam doesn't apply to it. In fact, it is just Chintya Rupam. It needs to be, but there is a possibility that you may not quite understand that it is Swatasiddha. That's a possibility. Ishvara has allowed this, this is the game that goes on. That at first you feel that I don't understand. Am I doing something? It's a possibility that you cannot, that you may start by saying I don't know. But at the end, the game is over with a very comedic end when you see, just like, you know, if you have a fear because it's a snake, and and then you don't inquire into it. Supposing you see a snake, and then you go away from it. Go away from it. Here, Swami Maheshanamji also makes another very interesting point. He says, suppose that you see a rope in a dark room. Interesting point. Really, I haven't thought of it that way. He says, supposing you see a rope in a dark room inside your own home, and it's a leftover rope of some kind with some bends and so on. And all of a sudden there is a lightning a lightning comes in for just a split second, and you happen to be looking at it, then what happens is the lightning was there in for such a short time, even though the lightning's light is very, very bright, very bright, brighter than what we usually see. It's a tremendous power. But it is for such a short time that you had two visions. You had two visions. One is that it's a rope, and the other vision is that it's a snake. And you're not able to precisely determine. And by that time, the lightning is gone. It has become dark again. And you haven't really looked into this very well. And so your fears will still be there because your doubts will still be there. So this is exactly what happens. In fact, this is in a different topic, but I'm just bringing it in here. The different topic is that when the Atma is taught by a teacher, you actually get a glimpse of it. Wow, this is true. You may get a glimpse of it. But what happens is that leave aside that for a second. I'll give you the connection between them. So in the case of the lightning, then it becomes dark again. And when it becomes dark, your fears and your uncertainty of whether it is precisely a rope or a snake is still there. What would need to be is a steady light where you can blink and open your eyes and say, oh, I made a mistake. God, why should I do that? Here it is, then you can actually feel close to the rope, touch it, and after that, even if you try to get the vision of the snake, it will not come. Because the light was now steady. So just connecting the example and the exemplified, Swami Maheswaranji says that it's precisely the same thing. What happens is that when you are first introduced to the concept of the Atma, not first, but when you are introduced to it somewhere or the other for a short time, you do get a glimpse that this is what the thing is. Through the Viveka, Atma, Anatma Viveka, and so on and so forth, you do get a glimpse of it. But what happens is that the light of the teaching, which precisely shows you that this is who you are, has not yet happened. Not yet happened. Either because your mind also is not ready, teacher is not available, your position, your situation in life is not where you can really look at it continuously. This is what Swami Paramarthananda says so beautifully. He says, the study of Vedanta is not just one or two classes, as we know from our experience. All that does is to just whet an appetite, but it means sustained study, day after day, with a renewed commitment, changes of your own priorities, questions and answers. This is what's going to happen in the Gita class today, where we say prati prashnena sevaya, and then how the teacher will explain. So anyway, so the steady light is necessary for the doubt to go away. So going back to the topic of Vyavastha and Achintya Rupam and so on. So I think we'll go ahead with it, but let me summarize it for you in all the things that we've talked about. What it means is that, really speaking, life is not going to give you the final answer. And so you can inquire it you can do it for relative reasons. But we are not after relative reasons. We want a complete freedom from our life, from everything. And in fact, this is the thing. Even though everybody wants complete freedom. Everyone, every person, every jantu, even an ant wants complete freedom. But not knowing that complete freedom is possible, we settle for relative freedom. And then there is a transformation where the possibility of absolute freedom is presented to us. At first, we don't even think about it. We say, no, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as absolute freedom. All I want is a happy life. That's enough. And then we'll deal with the other things later on. I've got problems. I just want to solve my daily problems. I don't want, some absolute kind of a thing. Then it is pointed out that the absolute freedom is possible. And my biggest block is my own mind, where I refuse to believe it. Then I open up my eyes and say, really? Interesting. But how? Then becomes another big problem where the how is not clear. The teaching is not there. The learning is not there. It's kind of like the lightning showing up the rope and the snake. It just disappears. And so the continued exposure to it shows that really you should not expect final answers from this life, because it is achintya rupam. It is the Maya Shakti, it's the Mayavi, which is like a magician. Because if you look at this is the thing, the very creation is made out of the possibility of pratiti. Pratiti means some kind of an obvious experience without truth. And so if that were not to be the case, then you'll never see a snake on a rope. It's interesting, I was just looking at myself in the mirror this morning, and I was getting dressed up, and it just dawned on me that sometimes you find these comments from people when photographs are taken, and you send a photograph of a family or something like this on WhatsApp, and oftentimes you'll see comments, do I look like that? I don't look like that. This is a genuine surprise. And you know what happens? I was looking at the mirror. What happens is, when you are looking at the mirror, you are imagining what you want to be. You are not looking at exactly what you look like, because you have a samskara from your previous life from your previous experiences. Because we are all growing old, so we have a vision that we are younger and we are better looking and all of that. And you project it. You don't really see that part of it. But the poor camera from the phone just tells you exactly what it is, and this is the truth. And you refuse to believe it? He said, no, that's not me. You go back to the mirror and then you're imagining, I'm not that bad looking, I'm still okay. So here's the thing, it's just, we always look at the life with, rose-colored eyes, rose-colored glasses rather, and we don't really have a precise feeling. And it is, so anyway, I think I've talked enough. So this is the topic. This is the topic that you please, so let me finish that. So first you didn't think that absolute moksha is possible. Then you don't quite understand what moksha is, because you still have samskaras from from mistaking yourself and mistaking other things and so on. So it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a beautiful example that really a lightning can show you the truth, but it just happens so quickly that that darkness comes back again. So the steadiness of the learning is very important. And the steadiness of the learning also includes, this is the thing I wanted to conclude with, also includes the firm conviction that by looking for answers in world is not going to be important at all. Not possible at all, not important at all. So karma is not useful. Making this, that, or the other is not useful. Karma is, because it's a praptasya praptihi, the karma's role is to really understand that you don't need the vyavastha of life. You are okay the way you are. Tall order, we don't accept it easily. Really? Are you saying? I'm not sure about this. And then on top of that, you have, this is as will be told, lots of other people will say, is Vedanta saying that they're crazy? You just come to us, we'll give you some meditations and you'll feel very good. Have they given you any meditations? Not very well. Okay, then you come to us, Brahma Kumaris. We have a nice, so on and so forth. So and so Vedanta says, please, how long are you going to do meditation? Don't you have to come out of it somehow or the other? And then there is different schools of thought, and so on and so forth. No vyavastha is possible. This is the topic that we are in the middle of. So, with that, let us resume the number 6, 7, possibly number 7 also today. Let me look at my notes. Well, I have to give you this interesting example. Swami Heshanji gave this example of, we have already done the vyavastha, so nothing is more, but it's just a kind of like a interesting example. So, and this is a real life example on page number 2 on 202. He says that one of my students was a principal of a university, or head of a university, not a principal, but a head of a university. He came to me, he says, Sir, Swamiji, I want to talk to you. One of my teachers brought up the case. One of the students in my teacher's class is the son of the chief minister in UP, it must be in UP. And he's got a problem with this guy. What happens is that he's failing. Anytime you give him some exam or something, he has no idea what the question is. He gives a completely different answer. And really speaking, my teacher tells me that I want to give him a 0. So he says, why are you asking me? He says, because if I give him a 0 and the chief minister finds out, I'll be fired from this job. And so I'm giving it to you, you deal with it somehow or the other. So Swamiji said, okay, all right, I'll tell you. So he calls up the chief minister and he says, sir, I need to talk to you. So he was very happy that Swami is coming to talk to me. It was wonderful. So he presented the case with him. He says, what would you do if a person doesn't even understand the question? And he gives a complete different, he says, that should be failing. No question about this. Our universities are all very precise. You have to do, this is vyavastha. He's talking about a vyavastha. This is the way it should be. If you don't answer question, then so on and so forth. So he says that went on for 45 minutes. So likha hua hai, 45 minutes. He says, it's your son who did that. He says, oh, that's a different thing. You know why that's a different thing? Because he's going to be a politician. He's my son. And he is going into politics. You don't need any of this. Don't need any of this. And don't embarrass him. So just give him something. And because I'm grooming him to take over my place, he's going to actually fight an election and so on. This means there is no vyavastha. No vyavastha. Then Swamiji says, okay, all right, if that's the case. So and the Chief Minister says, please give him full marks, 100%. So Swamiji says, now look at this, the message of this. Swamiji says that Vedanta wants to give 100% in all cases. We don't mind if somebody fails. That's okay. If somebody does very well, that's okay. Because the vyavastha is not necessary. Swamiji says, I got a great lesson from this guy. Where for 45 minutes he was talking about, this fellow has to go through, course number 1 after that, then you can do that. And if somebody cannot even understand this at all, then why would you even talking about it? Give him 0 marks. And then he said, by the way, this is your son. So then the whole vyavastha is thrown out of the window. So Swamiji says exactly the same thing we should do. So, for example, supposing there is a school of thought, that you think closely resembles yours, that means it's successful. Or another school of thought that makes some stupid things that it is not close to you, it is 0. It doesn't matter. Both of them are irrelevant. The whole life as a vyavastha is irrelevant. And the irrelevance of the life should not be left at that point, but it should now give you an understanding why a vyavastha is not necessary. As in the case of the Chief Minister, he was totally convinced, and he's right also, by the way. It's not as though that he was stupid. He's right that for a politician it is not necessary to study and go through all of that. They just make some speeches and so on and so forth, and he gets elected in that example. So similarly here also, the whole vyavastha of life is not necessary. It cannot be done to begin with, but the more important thing is to say it is not necessary because the self is independent of vyavastha. This is the topic. This is an important topic. So whenever you say achintya rupam, think about this as the topic. Anyway, so with that, I think I've covered that. I covered that. So one other interesting thing, again as a prelude to what's going to come, that the criticism of the various schools of thought towards Vedanta, they call us Mayavadi. Mayavadi. So Mayavadi means that, they just dismiss everything as though this is just magic. And don't listen to them. That it cannot, don't listen to them when they say there's no vyavastha, it's all magic, it cannot be explained, and so on and so forth. We have an idea of exactly how to explain it. Follow us. So this is what is called Mayavadi. Mayavadi means that everything can, and these things, for example, by the way, there may be some criticism on precise aspects of Hinduism in Sanatana Dharma and so on, that people may object to. Like, for example, the Sikh religion, they were all against this caste system. And so they adopted all the basic principles of Sikhism, basic principles of Hinduism, and dropped off some things out of it and says, this is what you need to do. But it's a very funny religion because after 10 gurus, there's no more gurus. You study the Guru Granth Sahib. There's a problem because you cannot communicate this without a live guru. How can this religion, it becomes a social life, a social kind of a thing, but there's no real teaching. There's no teacher. Yeah, so anyway, so all of that. So they call Vedanta as Mayavadis, Mayavadins. Don't listen to them, they are Mayavadins. Everything they dismiss, everything is Maya, 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 Maya. How can you do that? So our teachers say this. I remember all, Swami Chinmayananji, Swami Maheswaranji, all of them. They say, we are not Mayavadins, we are Brahmavadi. Because, in fact, we explain Maya with respect to the fact that you don't need Maya. We are Brahmavadi. We are Atmavadi. And the whole problem of criticizing Vedanta is because you don't finish it. You just talk about the Maya and then you say, this is wrong. Finish it, because the Maya ends up in something which is independent of Maya, which is Brahman. So we are Brahmavadi. So here now, now coming back to verse number 6. Prabhavaha sarva bhavanam satamiti vinishchayaha sarvam janayati pranas cheto amshun purushaha prithak. So, so here, what is pointed out is one of the basic tenets of Vedanta. So this is about creation. Prabhavaha means what you see in front of you. Every experience is a creation. Prabhavaha. So one of the tenets of Vedanta is nothing comes out of nothingness. Cannot come out of nothingness. So whenever you see a creation, there is in fact a source of it already there. So this is what it says, Prabhavaha sarva bhavanam satam iti vinishchayaha. He says, don't even think about questioning this. And so we have seen the examples that you cannot make yogurt out of water. Cannot do it. So whenever you see something, then the karana, this is the karya. Karya means the manifestation of something. You have to see whether there is a relevant karana for it or not. And so here, as when we come so far we have talked about neti, neti, neti. We haven't come out to the positive aspects of what it is. And so this is just a summary of it. He says, Prabhavaha sarva bhavanam satamiti vinishchayaha. It should be an absolute ascertained conclusion that really speaking, behind the whole creation should be something which is the truth, satam, satiti, satyam jnanam anantam. That in fact is the basis. He's not saying that, but all he's saying is that it should just be seen to be that way. Then the second line is Sarvam Janayati Pranaha. So here, please make a note of it, the word Pranaha refers to not the prana of life, which is the normal meaning of prana, all the panchabhutas in the form of breathing, apana, samana. It's not that. It stands for the Maya Shakti. Sarvam Janayati Pranaha. How do we ascertain? Because of the context, the relevance, the wisdom of people who have studied it. They say this refers to Maya Shakti. Sarvam Janayati Pranaha. And so here, very interestingly things. So, you talk about the two causes. The two causes that create the creation. You know that very well. So one is called Nimitta Karanam, which is the intelligence behind the creation. The other one is the Upadana Karanam, which is the material of the creation. So we have seen the example that if there is a pot maker, then the idea of how to make the pot comes from the pot maker's mind, and then he has to find the material for making the pots. And in the case of a spider, so this is what is called Abhinna Nimitta Karanam, Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam, that the spider has the intelligence to create this jalam and also to have the material itself. And a better example of that is our dreaming. So in the dream, we have the intelligence based on the previous samskaras of our mind, and we have the material. This is a very important thing for us to really see, because, we always think about how can the Atma create this whole world? They say the whole world is mithya. Not they say, it is true. This is the Maya Shakti. This is the Maya Shakti. And how can the Atma be the very material of the whole world? This is what has to be done. If we get this very precisely in our mind, we are done. And so the example given is, this is why the dream is created by Ishvara, to give us some encouragement that this is exactly how it can be done. So it's an amazing thing that when we dream, we have a bright sun and we have cars going. And don't say that, oh, that's just make-believe. When you are in dreaming, it's not make-believe. Only when you come out, it is a make-believe, but while there, it is, in fact, this is what we were discussing in the Panchadashi, just the new class on Tuesday, that the samvit in the Jagrata Avastha and the samvit in the Swapna Avastha is the same. So you cannot say that's a different thing. No, it's exactly the same thing, or very similar to it. The whole creation is very similar. Samvit is the same, but the creation is very similar. So anyway, going back to the point, in the Swapnavastha, see, how are you able to create so many things? Bright sunlight, you're sleeping in darkness. There is bright sunlight and you're actually saying, oh, I'm having a headache. This is too much sun. Amazing. It's the same material, is all there. So therefore, in fact, the material of the whole creation in my life is all in the Atma. So the Atma has this Paramatma, not just the Jivatma, but not just the limited Atma, but the entire Atma, has two aspects. One is Nimitta Karanam and one is Upadana Karanam. The Upadana Karanam is the Maya Shakti. It's the Maya Shakti. And you can even say that the Upadana Karanam for my dream is kind of like my own Maya Shakti. You have the ability, everybody has the ability to just create a huge amount of structure in your dream. Where it has come from, that possibility is there. Similarly here also. Anyway, just to go on, the Maya is usually called the Upadana Karanam of Ishvara. This is what is called Sarvam Janayati Pranaha. This is the Maya, this is the Upadana Karanam. And that creates some kind of a reality separate from the Purusha. And so, but the separation of the reality from the Purusha is actually based on the Purusha. So the cause of the entire creation must already be there. So it's not as though this is a brand new thing and you don't need to look at it. In other words, we have all of the samagri. The word samagri is used. Samagri means all of the ingredients for creating my whole life. It's all there. Any example given is you just close your eyes and it's gone. Well, perhaps the thoughts are there. Then you go into deep sleep and the whole thing is gone. Pain is gone, hurt is gone, experiences are gone. And so really speaking, the entire prapancha has no vyavastha whatsoever. It just appears to be a vyavastha while we are engaged in it. It seems to have some kind of an order, but there is no order. Not necessary to have an order. That's what this verse number 6 says. Where are we in terms of, oh my goodness, almost time to go. I shouldn't start number 7. At least we can just read number 7 and then I'll just give you the introduction to it just in a couple of minutes. Vibhutim prasavam tvanye manyante shrishti chintikaha swapnamaya sarupeti shrishti anyairvikalpita shrishti anyairvikalpita. So here the word anye is used. We're starting with this verse up to the next 3 verses, and then the introduction to this whole topic will be finished, and then we will take it up in much more detail in the rest of the Karika. But in there, the word anye is used. Anye means other than the Vedanta Sampradaya. One who do not follow this. They have their own thinking. And what kind of thinking do they have is being described. Vibhutim prasavam tu anye manyante shrishti chintikaha. Chintikaha means the one who think about the shrishti, who explain the shrishti. Swapnamaya swarupa iti shrishti anyaihi vikalpitaha. Then later on, ichha matram pabhoho shrishti iti srishtau vinishchitaha. Kalat prasuti bhutanam manyante kala chintikaha. Bhogartham shrishti tu anye kridartham iti chapare. Devasya esha swabhavaha ayam aptakamasya kaspriha. And so he will now look at the schools of thought that do not accept the Vedantic principle that the whole thing has no vyavastha. They don't accept it. They say, no, it has vyavastha, and let me explain to you what the vyavastha is. And so the attitude we need to have is just a smile on ourselves. We have no fights. We have no fights with them, no competition, no nothing. Just like a person says, no, there is a snake, there is a vyavastha. We say, there is no snake. What are you talking about? And he says, no, there is a... Then he says, okay, all right, fine. So you have a smile on your face. Let him believe that. Let him believe that. It's okay. Whatever. To each his own. But it doesn't bother you. It doesn't... you don't want to, if a person wants to learn, you do it. But so that's the attitude towards the other form. We don't have any fights. We don't have any competition. We just explain, and if that is not accepted, then it's fine. That's okay. That's the feeling of it. Okay, so we'll close today's class, and then we'll take it up next week. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha Prithvi Sasya Shalini Desho Yamkshobharahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhavet Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Any questions? Kalpana?
So we said that Brahman is Nimitta Upadana Karana.
Karam, yeah.
And previously we made a statement saying Brahman itself is not a part of the Rachana. It is Satyam. So Atma Brahman is not part of the creation.
Right.
Itself is independent of the
Correct.
Vyavastha.
Correct.
So do we mean because it's not affected by whatever is happening in the creation? Is that why we are saying?
Yeah, pretty much. It has the ability to be independent. It has its own existence. It doesn't belong to... So in the case of the anatma, which is the shrishti, it needs some support. So for example, it needs to have both the mind as well as the body, all those kinds of things. It needs to have material, and the mind and the body needs food, and the food needs prithvi, the prithvi needs sun. So there is interdependencies all the way through, but in the case of the Atma, it is Swatasiddha. It doesn't really need anything. It is existence by itself. Very big thing if we can just grasp it. And that's what it means going from Jivatma to Paramatma. Because Jivatma means that we have some vague idea, yes, I am a conscious being. But how the limitations we put on the conscious being prevent us from understanding that this is not just Jivatma, this is Paramatma. And so that is an independent thing which is existing, and so it is not dependent on, it doesn't need an upadana karanam, nimitta karanam, no, nothing. Yeah.
So I understand that Atma does not need a vyavastha. There is no need because it is sarva vyapika. But we talk about the order, Ishvara's order.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about Ishvara's order, we are only talking that in relative
Correct.
to Maya
Yes.
Shakti.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So at a relative level, there has to be order.
Right. So at the Maya Shakti.
At the Maya Shakti. But the thing is that we project it as though that will solve my problems. Whereas in fact, it is just an intermediate step. So there is vyavastha at a relative level. You cannot say that there is no order to my life, that I don't have any responsibilities. All of that is there, but it is simply, but it's not going to give you a final answer. There are things that you cannot explain, and you don't need to explain. That's the, yeah.
At the Maya Shakti, Ishvara's order is very precise.
Very precise,
Right.
very precise. In fact, just the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually say that the Ishvara's order from a Vyavaharika Sat standpoint is absolutely precise. So precise, in fact, that none of your previous karmas are ever forgotten. Ever. That's what creates the prarabdha karma. It's a giant cloud-based computer.
But even the physical order, the
Physical order.
all that is
All that is, everything is
that is all
complete.
vyavastha, but at a Maya Shakti level.
Right. It is that the there is an order to start the inquiry. To start the inquiry, but the inquiry should be with the end goal in mind, that I cannot precisely explain everything. So Maheshanji gives this example. He says, you know, there's a specialist doctor who's 70 years old, and he just does one thing very well, is medicine, like in Ayurveda, you know, you have medicines and so on. But sometimes it doesn't work. My own grandfather used to be a very well-known doctor in homeopathy in Amritsar. But none of his medicines ever affected me. He used to get very frustrated. I was very asthmatic. And he used to treat a lot of other asthmatic people, but it never had any effect on Anchintya Rupam. What it is, you have no idea. So even the order of that should always be tinged with the feeling that let me follow the order as much as possible, but in the end, I have to go beyond it. Yeah.
Just one sentence is, so the Maya Shakti, so Ishvara is giving orders, keeping the orders, what we say is orders. It is a Maya Shakti or through Maya Shakti?
No, it's just that unless you have no creation whatsoever, you know, that's no fun. It's no fun. There's nothing going on, nothing, it's just, and so on and so forth. But if you have to have creation, then it has to be a pretend creation. There's no real creation. It's all a pretend creation. So the pretend creation is through the Maya Shakti. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that while it is a pretend creation, you can understand the pretension. Even a jiva is capable. It requires a lot of progress in life through several lives. We are all going through that. But the pretension of the Ishvara, here Swami Maheshanji gives us just a wonderful example. He said, you know, so you have a magician. So you have a magician who is creating all kinds of things and so on. He said, you know, just like, for example, a hypnotist. The hypnotist is a good example where you create a hypnosis and so on. But it is possible for someone to look beyond the magic by following certain principles. You watch the person. You don't get, and because they use words, now I'm going to do this and so on and so forth. So your mind gets entangled with that. And so you become a victim of the magic. Not a victim, but you're an enjoyer of the magic. But he says if someone, like for example, doesn't want to be hypnotized, you just look at his form and so on, and you won't be hypnotized. Another example Swamiji gave, he says, now we have much easier to understand because of the movies. Because of the movies. Because if you're just watching a movie, especially he was talking about when the light comes out from a hole and you can see the, projecting and so on. So he says if you're looking at the screen and so on, you can just be entangled with all the, what's happening in the movie and so on and so forth. But he says if you keep on looking at the light, then really you are going beyond the movie. So similarly, this is what happens in our life, is that we are so engaged in looking at the movie of my life, is what happening, so on and so forth. But it is possible to see the pretend creation if you look at the light from which all this is coming out and really focus on it. And first we say, oh, there's nothing, who am I? And the whole world is so big, sun, moon, this, that, or the other. No. If you see the example of the swapna, you find it is all coming from me. And then you start to focus on it, you find that the pretend creation is understood to be a pretend creation. Yeah. Something like that. Okay, so we'll see you back at the... one other thing. Some of you had asked for some books from the Panchadashi. So I brought some extra books for Panchadashi that those of you wanted a copy of. So please come and pick it up from here.